So again, you're on the Twin Cities Theater Bloggers Facebook page, so thanks for watching us. I'm Laura with One Girl, Two Cities, and then Kendra from Artfully Engaging is here tonight as well.
Behind the camera today.
She'll have some questions as we go though too. So we are at the Lab Theater tonight, which is probably one of my favorite spaces in town. It's so beautiful and really cool with exposed brick, and it's just a neat space. We are here because Pangea World Theater will be doing a show here very soon. It's called 5 Weeks. It's going to air like this is television. It'll be here April 7th through the 23rd. And we are here with the playwright of 5 Weeks. Her name is Meena. Oh, you're going to have to pronounce it for me.
Natarajan.
Okay, so Meena, why don't you start by telling us just a little bit about Pangea World Theater, because actually Jill from Cherry and Spoon, who sees all of the theater that's in town, she is not super familiar with you, and so we just kind of were interested in a little bit of the background of Pangea.
Great. So Pangea is 20 years old now, so this is actually our 21st year. And so Pangea is a space where we bring people from different backgrounds, ethnicities, different walks of life, from totally different places together to create work together. So we are a theater that produces work. We actually have about 2 or 3 productions a year, and we also do community-based work. So we have a huge community-based program on Lake Street, and it's called Lake Street Arts. Okay. It's a creative placemaking program. And then some of our other programs is also about training, especially training people of color and women directors. So we have a huge training program called the National Directing Institute, which is to train people of color and women directors. Oh, wow. So we do all of this work we do in our little studio in Lake Street. And we have a 1,400 square foot space, and it's full of the most amazing stories, and magic gets created in that space.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and the word Pan is universal. Gaia is the Greek goddess of the earth. And Pangea was that supercontinent that existed before drift happened, when the whole world was one landmass. So in a sense, we take we want to bring people together in that way, not like, we are the world kind of way, but really as recognizing our differences, really like looking for what we have in common between us.
Yeah.
So both things held simultaneously.
Yeah, and so with that, with what you've said about that, it kind of makes me think about the little that I've read about 5 weeks so far. So I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more. And Gina from the room where it happens, she had commented that the show seems really relevant. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of what inspired you to write this play, but then also how you see it applying to the current events of today.
So 5 Weeks is a piece that's set during the partition of India, of British India into India and Pakistan. So it's set in 1947 when India got partitioned into 3 essentially, because it got split into India and Pakistan, and then on the right side it was East Pakistan, which then became Bangladesh in 1971. So really, and how this happened was really in a fairly violent way. The British basically announced in like 1946 that they were going to partition India in 1947. And then what they did was they actually appointed this historian, Sir Cyril Radcliffe, to come and do it. He'd never been to India ever. He came in July of 1947, and then he basically split the country, like basically drew the border in literally 5 weeks.
Wow.
And it caused such mayhem that 15 million people were refugees overnight. Close to 1 to 3 million people is the estimate of people killed during that time, during riots. And then 75,000 women were abducted and raped.
Oh my gosh.
And again, tens of thousands of children were also abducted during that time. So it's really was a very violent time in India's history, but it was also a very silent history. People didn't speak about it. My parents' generation and my grandparents' generation never spoke about partition. So really, it's one of those stories that now people are beginning to talk a little bit about it. And most of the people who've experienced partition are also dying. They're old now. They're older now.
Sure.
They're in the 80s, they're in the 90s. They remember they were little children at the time, but they're now 70 years old, and they remember it. And I really started out by wanting to write a play about women and children in partition, but it just, and this is my second play on partition really,
Okay.
but it just made me so sad that I just felt like, you know what, I want to tell a story of like a multiple stories of partition. And I want to tell the human stories of the people who are affected, who are made refugees. I want to tell the human stories of the connections that happen between Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs. I want to tell the human stories of how people helped each other, but also were very violent towards each other during that time.
Sure.
And really kind of, and I feel like this stories like this heal us, you know, because we tell, you know, theater is about telling the truth as well. And so really telling these stories help us also look at the lens of history and say, you know, and actually help us look at the present through the lens of history. It's completely relevant right now. As you're seeing, I mean, there are so many refugees in the world.
Yeah.
And borders have become more and more and more rigid. And how do we move across borders to understand each other? How can we understand each other across difference? It's a really important question. And so I feel like this play is really completely relevant at this time when people are erecting walls between countries, when people are like have visas that, you know, you can't enter countries.
Yeah.
So it's really, for me, it's a very relevant piece of work that needs to be seen.
Okay, and so can you tell us a little bit about what people might expect to see in the show? Because it sounds very dramatic and like it might be a little, I don't know, it sounds like, knowing me and the little you've said, I feel like I would maybe be a little hesitant to come and try and experience this because I get very sensitive to things like this. But yeah, just tell us a little bit about what we might see in the show.
So I've basically based this play on both fiction as well as real stories. So you're really going to see people's real stories on stage.
Sure.
And also some fiction written about partition. And I've chosen pieces, and I've also really focused on pieces that are both, that have lighter moments as well as darker moments. So if you come and see the play, and I've deliberately used language in the piece. Mm-hmm. So if you come to the piece, you're actually going to see multiple languages.
Oh, okay.
I've used at least 3 or 4 languages in this piece. There's going to be live music. It's going to be incredible. The music is completely incredible. It's by a woman called Pooja Goswami Pavan, who lives here. She's the composer.
Okay.
And her husband plays the tabla. His name is A. Pavan. And we also have a keyboard player. And the music is going to be completely incredible because it's folk music and classical music during that time.
Sure.
And so she's gone and researched that time, and she sings in multiple languages in this piece as well. So there's going to be live music for every show. There's also people, and many of the cast members' parents have actually experienced partition. Mm-hmm. We have actors from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, current day Pakistan, as well as India. So it's a very, very diverse cast.
Yeah, that's amazing.
In terms of both religion, country, as well as languages. So it's just, I mean, it's really a brilliant space to walk into. And like I said, what I've done is chosen to tell dark stories, but also chosen to tell stories that are humorous, stories that are macabre perhaps, stories that are, you know, like just really kind of using comedy as a way, but also then going back and looking at stories that are really moving, touching, stories of children who have been not abducted, but who were lost and then found again by their parents.
Sure.
So there's like stories of hope as well.
Oh, okay.
Can you talk a little bit about the actors? It seems like there's a rather large cast.
Yes.
And if they are actors, or if have they worked with Pangea before? Or can you tell us just a little bit more about who's involved?
Sure. The actors are from multiple backgrounds. Again, they're from actors who some of them have acted with us before, and a couple of the actors are. One of the actors is professional, has acted for 35 years in both film and in theatre in India. Some of the actors have acted in theatre when they were younger in India and then come here and not acted for a long time and then returned to acting. Okay. And then some of them are community members who we are training. Because this play demands a South Asian cast, and so it's very important to have that authenticity in the piece.
Absolutely.
And so really, we're working with community to train and to have them act in the play. Yeah, it's been a pretty incredible journey. I feel like we've got a great cast. There are 14 people in the piece.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, and we are hoping to talk with some of them yet tonight. So those videos will kind of follow up this one at some point in time. So just stay tuned. And then Mary from Play Off the Page was wondering if there was like additional research that you had to do in order to write this piece and present these stories, in a way that you wanted to tell them, or if it was just kind of things that you know because of the way your background and where you came from.
Actually, we are not taught about partition at all when we grew up in India.
Okay.
It's interesting. None of our textbooks deal with this subject. They just say India got independence. I mean, I'm from India, so there's India got independence in 1947, August 15th. So we really actually didn't know much about partition. And I started, when I first wrote my first play on partition was written in 2001. And that's when I actually started doing research. And that was an original piece. So really one of the things I've done is actually literally been doing research for the last 10 years. And for this piece, been doing research for the last 8 years. I spoke to scholars. I went and researched, and right now there's a lot more information available on the web. There are archives, there are all kinds of books that are available. Books have been coming out, but when I started researching, there were not many archives around. And so really searching for information, looking at books, interviewing scholars. I've interviewed people who've gone through partition. I've read literally tens of books in like the 60 short stories, books, all kinds of stories that have come out about partition, both in regional languages as well as in English. So I've been doing a lot of research on this subject for the last few years. And so this play is a result of that research. And it really deals with, like I said, it deals with what happens with Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Parsis who live in India. Parsis are, they originally came from Iran. And they came to India in I'm not exactly sure when, but I would say 16 or 1500, 16. And then also Anglo-Indians in India. So, it's kind of it really deals with multiple people.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds so interesting. I'm fascinated by this, and I'm really looking forward to checking it out. Kendra, do you have additional questions?
Yeah, I do. So this sounds like a very time-intensive project that you've been working on. Did you have a grant, or how do you get funding to devote all your time to that research, or is that just a project that you've been dedicated to?
Yeah, I mean, it's a project of love, really. I've been so fascinated. I mean, just reading the stories, especially the women and children, like I said, it was so hard to read those stories, and I just felt I had to put some of those stories on stage, and I couldn't put everything. I couldn't make it about that for at least this piece, because I needed something lighter as well, But I feel like the grants that I got for this piece was the APECD. It was by Travelers, and some State Arts Board Artist Initiative grants, and as well as a Playwright Center grant, I think. And right in the beginning, I'm talking about small sums of money, but it really was a gift because it gave me time and space. I'm incredibly grateful for whatever I got to sit down and work on the piece. It gave me the time and space to go to England to look at, the archives. It gave me time and space to go to India and actually research and interview people, and interview scholars especially, and people who'd been through partition, who'd gone, who'd found their families after many, many years. Yeah. So it's priceless when you have that kind of first first source for you to start beginning a piece of work.
Yeah.
So it was a blessing.
I have more questions. Okay. I was just like, this is so interesting.
Do you want to swap out?
Yeah. So I am an arts marketer at heart.
Okay.
I'm wondering how Pangea works with communities here, like Indian communities, to engage them and invite them to the performances.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we're really trying to reach, one of our cast members is actually also a marketing person, so he's trying to reach both Indian, Pakistani as well as Bangladeshi communities. We're reaching across to corporate, employee networks as well. We're trying to reach Indian community for sure, and we're trying to go to the temple, the Sikh Gurudwara, to mosques, really meet people, and we go wherever people ask us to go and to market the piece. And also social media, of course, but also I'm really trying to get refugees and immigrants, say from our, because our Lake Street Arts work works with Somali, Latino, Latinx and indigenous communities. So trying to actually work with those communities to get those communities to come to the play as well. I feel like this play would totally speak across communities and ethnicities to reach as many people as we can get. I mean, this place has the advocates for human rights whom we're connected with very deeply. We're connected with, and then the Center for Victims of Torture. I mean, just really lots and lots of places that you can connect to bring that community. And we've worked with so many of the immigrant communities in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, with as long as you've been around. So
Yeah.
it's really amazing.
Yeah.
How old is Pangea Theater?
It's 20 years old.
Oh yeah, you said at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then can you give just a little short like snippet, like what if you were encouraging someone to come and try? There's a lot of events going on in the Twin Cities. We just talked about it. You can't see everything. So if you were just gonna give like a sentence or two to somebody about why they should come, what would you say?
I would say we're one of the most unique theaters in the Twin Cities. Where else would you get a chance to see multiple languages on stage? Also, especially at a time like this when we are so there's just such a push for homogenization, and but really to see a chance to celebrate everyone for who they are from the most unique place. And where do you get the chance to come and see stories like this that have not been told for this is like the 70th anniversary of partition. You think about it, it happened in 1947, it's 1917. I mean, it's 2017 right now. Sorry, 2017 right now, right? So it's literally exactly 70 years. And so where would you get a chance to see that kind of story that you've never seen before? But also that helps you think about what the world, what we actually need to do to make this world a safe place for us to live in.
Absolutely. Any other questions, Kendra?
No, I just want to know how to get tickets.
Yeah, so again, we're talking about 5 weeks, which is by Pangea World Theater, and we've been talking with Meena, the playwright. So thank you. This has been super interesting to hear about. This is taking place at the Lab Theater, which is in the North Loop in Minneapolis. There's a parking lot literally across the street. And so if you go to thelabtheater.org, and it's in thelabtheater.org. You can get tickets there. So again, 5 weeks by Pangea World Theater. It's playing April 7th through 23rd. And then you've been watching the Twin Cities Theater Bloggers. Again, I'm Laura with One Girl, Two Cities, and I've also been here with Kendra from Artfully Engaging. So thanks again to Meena, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.